Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. I turned the webcam off so that we could actually use FL without it crashing. So today I'm going to show you how to make hip hop melodies in FL Studio using nothing but stock plugins. We're going to get into pretty deep ideas. It's probably going to have a part two, so stick around for part two. Firstly, we're going to load up the plugin called Flex. So let's go to what's called the channel rack. Click this icon here, click the plus icon, and we're going to load up this plugin called Flex. So Flex has a lot of more modern sounds within FL Studio. If you don't know, if you can go to the free tab, download a bunch of free libraries here. Let's go to packs and let's try the essential packs, essential bass, guitar, piano, etc. If you struggle with writing melodies, start with stringed instruments like a piano or a guitar or some like actual like stringed instruments like violin, etc., because that is how sound was like invented. Music was invented by strings. So let's start there. Okay, so with the piano, it's a stringed instrument. Let's go to the top and let's start working our way down these presets. So firstly, let's turn the metronome on. Now, in the beginning, most of you guys are producing at 140. That's fine, but there's something about time that when you slow it down to about 90, you can actually hear the gaps in the music. Okay, so it depends on what genre you're making. So I'm just going to assume you guys are making like melodic trap. Okay, what we're going to do is go to the channel rack, hit Control L to send that sound to the mixer. And again, if you ever get stuck, you will get the project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com. Right at the top, you'll see a free downloads tab. Okay. So let's right click. Let's go to piano roll. And now in the piano roll, one major thing you guys want to do if you're just getting started with FL, go to the top left where it says piano roll options, go to view, and then make sure that you have key labels on all notes. That will make this so much easier. I don't know why it's not on by default. Okay. So firstly, we need to figure out where do we want to start. So listen to the tones in your head. Your head is giving you ideas. You just got to listen to that radio station. So my radio's telling me, duh. Okay, so that's the tone. Now you don't need to even know the next tone. I have a system where you can literally go through using a systematic approach as to figure out the next tone. So if you don't have no clue where to go, you have to ask, do you want this sound to be tense or do you want it to sound harmonious? So let's say you want the sound to be tense. Okay, you can either go to the note above or the note below. Okay, always keep your metronome on when you're writing melodies in the beginning because this will keep you on time. So you can either go one note above or one note below. So that creates more of like a tense vibe. And this half step, it's called the one note above, wants to come down, okay? Back down one. Now you've heard this a million times in hip hop. Let's hit Control down. Pull it down one more. Okay, so let's start here because what we're doing is building up tension. Let's hit Control, left click to highlight, hit Shift, and just drag this over. Okay, so that's the way I copy the timing over. If you mess up, just hit Control Q. It will lock it to the snap to grid. Again, my snap to grid with this little magnet is 1/2 beat. Let's try to pull it down one more octave, Control down. Okay, so now we're creating like that new kind of form of like hip hop where it's very dry and it's just piano. Let's see how low we can go. One more. That's too low. Okay, so now let's start layering. So with melody, you have 4 potential parts of a melody. You have the rhythm layer. You have what's called the harmony layer, which is like chords. You have your contrast layer, which is like a lower frequency, which is basically this frequency here. In short, it doesn't always have to be a lower frequency, but a contrast layer. And then you have what's called your top line. Now, not every beat has all these elements. Okay, so some beats are more stripped down than others, but for the most part, you can start adding layers. So let's make this as full as we can. Let's take the same starting note and pull it up a couple octaves. Let's hit Control up. Okay, now what we're going to do is build what's called a chord. A chord, in short, is 2 notes or more in the old definition, 3 notes or more in the modern definition. So a chord doesn't need to be 3 notes. Let's get that myth out of your head. So what we're going to do is create what's called an interval stack. So we're going to count up 7 semitones from this note. Semitones are just basically note by note. So we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That will always harmonize. Okay, so if you're ever stuck, try using what's called a perfect fifth. It's always 7 semitones above your root note or whatever note you start with. So it sounds bare bones, but I'm going to show you how to make this more elaborate. So let's copy this, hit Control, hit Shift. Okay, so now what we're going to do is identify a chord type using a triad or a 3-note chord. So here's where we have what's called the minor third and the major third. In short, the difference between a major chord and a minor chord is that a minor chord is 3 semitones up from the root note. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3. And it sounds quote unquote dark or sad, whereas the major is 4 semitones up from the root note. And it sounds quote unquote more happy. So depending on your track, usually for darker tones, you're going with minor chords. And then what we're going to do is copy that same half step movement we did, with the bass, but instead we're going down. Let's let this play for a little bit. Okay, so now you get the vibe of the melody. You have to determine, do you want your melody to be a quote unquote dark melody or a brighter melody? Those are the two main emotions. They can go into different, that's like the two ends of the spectrum. You have dark and then you have light melodies. Now everything in between is like variations of both. Now remember, these are just supportive harmonies. These aren't trying to take the whole show here. These are just the glue to the entire performance or composition. Nextly, let's add a top line layer. Top lines usually start with the highest note of a chord. So we're going to take this F sharp and pull it up an octave or two. Hit Control up. So I'm going to go up 2 octaves so you can really hear the difference in all the octaves. Okay, so here's where we're going to add what's called rhythm. So that's basically what we're going to repeat is a 4-note sequence. Trap is known for this kind of 4-note repetitive motif. Let's just copy this over. Now I'm starting with easier stuff so that I don't get too complicated right away. Now why does B to F sharp work? If you pull this up, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is called a perfect fourth. And if you pull it down, it's a perfect fifth away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's always that 7-note gap that makes stuff always cohesive. Now let's show you guys how to make this more realistic. So right now it sounds cool, but it's very stiff and quantized and robotic. So if you go update your FL Studio to 21.2 is what I'm in. Also check out the forums for scripts on their website, but go to the tools and look for what's called the Humanize script. I can't remember if I downloaded this one or not, so go to the forums at ImageLine to get more scripts. And what we're going to do is just turn up the time offset and the velocity offset, hit accept. So now what it does is it humanizes all these notes. So assuming you guys don't have a MIDI controller, this helps. Let's grab our slice tool, hit shift and right click. Okay, slice tool is right up here to get rid of any overlapping notes, because in FL, if notes overlap, it won't trigger a note. So any overlapping notes, you have to manually go in and fix that. I wish there was a quick way to do it, but there is no quick way. Now it has a human feel to it. So nextly, what you want to do is try out different keys. What you could do is hit shift down and shift up to transpose the key. So this will change out the mood quite literally. E and F minor, if your starting chord is a minor, this is pretty much going to be the key for the most part. I'm trying not to make music theory complicated. So in this case, B flat would be the key, or A sharp. Now, once you get to E and F, it becomes super rebellious and depressing sounding. These are probably the darkest, most sad keys, is E minor and F minor. Now let's go inside the plugin effects and start turning off effects. So these have built-in effects. I don't want all these effects. Let's turn off the filters, the delay, and the reverb. So now I want to add my own effects. We're going to get a little advanced here. I just want to show you how far you can take it. Let's hit Control L, send that sound to the mixer. Let's click on our mixer and I'm going to open up, we're going to get a little quirky crazy. So let's open up Fruity Delay 3. You're like, why would you add a delay to a piano? Let's turn down the dry level, turn down feedback, turn down delay time. Now everything else in this plugin becomes an effect. So let's turn up time modulation. This creates what's called a pitch wobble. You can mess with the delay and change out the panning style. So it spreads out that time modulation. You can do stereo and create an offset. Now, delay time doesn't matter because there's no dry level, but if you wanted to, you could turn on keep pitch and kind of mess with this knob and automate that. But again, that's more of an automation thing. So I would record notes on automation. Okay, and then you guys can hit play. And if you want to bring in the dry level, now this is going to create more of a chorus-y sound. And then you can pull down what's called the wet level to blend this effect. So it got pretty advanced pretty quick, but that's, you know, stuff that people overlook are simple plugins like this. So it's a very subtle effect, but people overlook it every day. And then lastly, you could add an EQ to take out some of the lows or add highs, whatever you guys want to do, or make it more muffled. To make it more lo-fi, what you could do is go to the preset, go to old telephone, and then go to your mixer and just kind of pull this back, the mix level. So there's a million different ways you guys can process the piano. The next one I'll say is let's go to Fruity Limiter. Let's see if they have presets. And we want to just go through presets until it gets this, until it squashes the piano. Let's just turn the fader down. Let's see which preset gives us the, none of these are really getting it. So we need to go to the compressor mode and lower the threshold. A lot of these aren't really doing much, if anything, to the sound. But at that point, you know, if you're going for more of a squashed sound, you would use something like Sound Goodizer. I really don't like plugins that just have one knob. But as far as, this is like FL Studio's OTT, for those who understand what that is. So we can really squash the sound. Now here's an advanced technique. Let's go to the mixer, create a new track, and let's call this Reverb Slowed. Again, you guys will get the project file, so don't worry about this. Let's open up a plugin called Fruity Reverb 2. Right click, hit R to reset the wet level, turn down dry, and turn up your decay time. Let's cut out the lows here with the low cut. And we're also gonna widen this out with the stereo separation knob. Now we're gonna load up in the next plugin slot, Gross Beat. And with this plugin, if I can find it, GR, we're going to go to where it's called presets and then go to momentary and then go to half speed. This will slow down the reverb. Okay, so now we're going to send the sound to the reverb. Click on your piano in this case and then left click to send a duplicate of the sound over to your reverb. This is going to create a really dark washed out piano. So what I'm going to do is actually print the piano. So let's go to the playlist. This is getting really advanced really quickly. Let's turn off the reverb for now. We're going to right click consolidate tracks from track start. And we're going to make sure we have cut remainder on and everything else looks good. Hit start. Now that we have this in audio, we could do some cool stuff. So firstly, let's double click, switch the mode to stretch mode. It will change the time knob here, switch it back to resample. And now you can change your BPM. Okay, so now we're going to send this sound. Let's say Control L, send it back to the mixer, but as a new audio track. And now we're going to left click to send it to that reverb, that up arrow down here, left click to send it there, and then turn the reverb on. So now the reverb is slowing down the signal. What you could do is blend this in with the gross beat. You can go to the green knob over here and just pull this back. So now it's a blend of both slowed reverb and regular. Now the BPM is pretty fast. So what I'll do is I'll double click in here, go to pitch, pull this up 1 octave, and then slow the BPM back down. I actually like it. Okay, so really messing with the pitch can give you really cool sounds for your melody. Now you have a really haunted sound. So it got advanced pretty quickly. I just wanted to show you guys what you could do. Nextly, you could double click in here, right click, open in Fruity Slicer. And this will allow you to do the Wonder Girl technique. Slice by either the beat or half beat, turn up your attack time, go back to your channel rack. We're gonna hit Control X, move this to a new pattern, right click, find first empty, hit paste. I know I'm moving quick here. Hit Control L, turn up the volumes. Go to your rinse tool, you might need to turn it up even more. And then now the sample is sliced into pieces and you could mess with the tuning here as well. You could also pull up the decay time to make the sample short and truncate it. This is great for like trap beats, for samples that are a little harder to get the groove on. All right, so hip hop melodies, the cool part is that it's not always dark and trap melodies. So we went over a trap melody. Let's go over more piano melodies, but this time make it a happier melody. So let's start off with the same plugin here. Let's go to Flex. Now I'm going to use a different instance of Flex so that you guys can have that other one. Let's go to Flex. This time again, we're going to use the Essential Sounds. Go to Free tab and download your Essential packs. We're going to go to Essential Guitar. I don't like the guitars, to be honest with you guys. I don't find the tones very good. Let's just start here. Now, Nylon is cool. Let's try MK1, see if this... Okay, these are actually good tones. Okay, I'm surprised. Now, if the sound starts sounding weird, let's start up at the top and turn these macros down. So by default, I think it's a normal guitar. I don't think there's added stuff. So let's turn off delay, reverb, any filters, and any limiter. Actually, let's keep the limiter on. It's part of the louder sound. Turn down your channel volume and let's go to pattern mode. Okay, let's just stay at 131. Let's right click, go to piano roll. Now tempo doesn't matter here. It's just, I don't want the other stuff to sound out of tempo from what you guys heard. So now we're gonna listen to the tone in our head. I hear ding. Okay, that's what I hear in my head. Now with guitar, it's a little bit different the way people play guitar. They could either play it one note at a time or multiple notes at a time. So in short, we're going to assume that this guitar is going to play multiple notes at a time, more of a chord approach. And we're going to start with simple 4-note chords. Now, this is where music theory comes into play. I teach this at my website. If you go to busyworksbeats.com, I teach music theory. So the one thing though, is we need to understand that we're reverse engineering a bigger chord. Chances are it's going to be a 4-note chord called a major 7th chord. The reason I know is because the top note is going to be E. You don't need to know all this. It's really just using what are called chord codes to work your chords out. Okay, so now we're at the major 7th. And what we can do is either raise the 3rd, taking this 3rd, pulling it up an octave. That's one technique. Or we could strum it out and assume that this is what's called the 9th. I know I'm getting really far, really advanced here, but the 9th is basically 7 semitones from the 5th. What is the 5th? The fifth is 7 semitones from the root note. So as long as you can count, you can find the ninth. So we're going to start here at F, count up 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's our fifth. It's called perfect fifth. From here, we can count up 7 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And G will be our ninth in that case. So if I'm using the logic that the top note of my head is E, I can either pull the entire chord down, hitting shift down, and this will be my new chord, D major ninth, which actually sounds pretty pleasant. So let's start there. So firstly, we need to ask, are we trying to play rhythm? Dun, 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 or are we going to play something different? So let's just assume we're going to play rhythm because it's a nylon guitar. So let's turn the metronome on. And we need to hit shift and play the same chord as if we're strumming it. Now I'll show you guys a tool on how to make it sound more realistic with the strum. So dun, 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 dun. Is we're giving it a rhythm. Very important for melody is rhythm. I could play the happy birthday song right now. I would play one note. Here's a technique. You would know that's the happy birthday song because it's the rhythm that makes it, not the notes. Think about how many people sing hit songs right now and they're out of key. It's not the note that makes the melody, it's the rhythm. It's the structure of intervals. Okay, so now we need to humanize this, but before we humanize it, let's just write in the notes. So let's assume we did another recording and now this is our rhythm. Remember, melody layers are in 4. So here we have the harmony layer, which is the chord, and we have rhythm combined. Okay, so now we need a top line, and then we can create a contrast layer, which you can also consider counterpoint, or you can play lower octaves as a bass. It's up to you. So firstly, let's go up an octave. Now, here's a quick way to improv. So let me show you guys a trick. Whatever your chord type is, in this case, this is a major chord. You can simply count from your root note and count up. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That makes a major third. So chances are we're starting off on a major chord. What you could do is right-click your typing keyboard to piano and switch this to major pentatonic. And then you just need to match your root key here, which is D. Okay, and then pick your octave, in this case 5. Might be a little high. Okay, there we go. So now I can go back and improv quite literally with my typing keyboard. Now, it's not every note I hear in my head, but it's a way to never go out of key. That's a nice contrast layer we could add in there. Okay, so let's just record the contrast. So it's like, dun, just simple. Now here's one button I forgot to turn on, the overdub button. Make sure you have that on so it doesn't mute the notes. Okay, so that's called a contrast. So even though I am playing the same notes as the chords here and it's blended in to where you can't even tell which notes, my FL just glitched here and made its own ghost. That was weird. Okay, so I just did some random function. So it's kind of hard to tell which notes we played and which notes were added in. I can tell because some notes don't line up with the chords. So what I'm going to do is raise this E an octave just so we can see it visually. Okay, so the cool part is we could take this chord structure and pull it down. So, dun, dun, dun. Now, usually speaking, major wants to go up. It sounds, or I should say happiness is going upward. So in this case, we're pulling the chords up. I'm transposing, it's called. Now we have a lot of notes being played. So So again, this is not a realistic performance, and I'll show you guys how to make this sound a little more realistic. Okay, so firstly, let's grab all the chords, hitting Control, and then hit Shift to highlight more notes. And what we're going to do is hit Alt-S. Now, in order for this to work, all your notes have to be quantized for the most part. So let's turn up the strength, and then we're going to click on where it says alternate direction. So this is going to strum up and down the chords. Now we want a very fast strum time, so it's not like drawn out like this. That sounds fake. Now in real life, you wouldn't strum up, down, up, down. It wouldn't be that robotic, but in this case, we're programming MIDI. Now keep in mind, this will cause overlapping notes. So I'm gonna hit Alt and just make sure all my notes are not overlapping. But this causes a gap, as you can hear. So I'll show you guys how to quickly fix this. Hit Control to highlight your notes, hit Alt-L, and then make sure it says only with selection on. So that will make sure none of these notes overlap to fill in some of those gaps. Okay, so let's do this. So we have to do this for each note. So I'll do it in the background. I'm not sure if it works on multiple lines or not. Let's see if it works on these. So now we need to create humanized velocity. So let's go to the Tools and go to Humanize. Now this is going to further offset the time. So we need to go back. Let me see if I can do it all at once. Looks like we can. So basically you highlight all your notes, hit Alt-L, and then only with selection, make sure that's on. And just fix any notes that are going crazy. So again, we're playing a lot of notes. What you could do to make it a little more realistic is take out what's called the 7th or the 4th note of the chord. So now we're playing what's called a major add 9 chord. So let's say you have this foundation, but you want to change, like a small change up. So let me show you guys, if you end on a major 7th chord or a major 9th chord in this case, what we're going to do is flatten the 5th and the tonic if the chord is a minor chord. We're going to raise the tonic and the 5th if it's a major chord. So in this case, we are ending our chord on a major chord. So let's figure out what chord, where we want to change it at. So let's say we want to change it up right here. Let's hit Shift and Control, hit Shift up. We're going to transpose the 5th and the tonic up 1. Now, technically, the 9th also has to move. I try not to make this complicated, but I usually do this with 7th chords. All right, so because the 9th is a little more melodic, let's pull this back down to the 7th. You don't need to memorize what I'm doing here. So it's 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's our 5th, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we need to pull this down to here. And then the top notes need to change as well. So that's a quick way to create tension. I didn't make it the easiest on screen, but basically we're just raising the 5th and the tonic. Let's see what happens if we take the second section here and pull it down an octave, control down. It's a little dark. Yeah, it's a little too dark. Let's go back to the plugin and see if we can change some settings. Okay, so I like the mic wider. like the distance further for this type of sound. Not sure what waving means. Not hearing any difference. Okay, so at this point, now we can hit shift down and shift up to change the key. Now this specific piano has a lot of buzzy noises in it, and that's a sample based issue. So we can try out different presets. Let's see which one grabs my ear. This one has a nice tone, a little soft. So as you can see with the stock guitars, it's really hit or miss with the stock sounds. I'm not gonna sit here and act like they're the greatest guitars in the world. But now we have a top line and we have a harmony layer and rhythm. So you could also go in and dub, another melody to kind of contrast. But now we've changed keys, so we're in A sharp. Okay, so in this case, we're gonna use the major scale instead of the major pentatonic. You can also try just the general piano, or let's try, general piano. So contrast with this beat, so it's just a slower, just repeating pattern. If I had to add another take. Now, in that case, I would record that on a different track. I'm trying not to bog you guys down with too much like minute detail. So let's record this on a different track. And let me turn my mic off. Okay, and then you have that recording plus the other recording of the top line, and that would be your contrast. Not playing drastically different things, just different rhythms. Okay, so that was a very drawn out tutorial about that, because guitar is just one of the one plugin sounds. One of the one sounds that doesn't really sound good as a plugin, from what I found. It just takes a lot of processing and work. Okay, so let's hear where we started. So what I did was, instead of layering both the top line and contrast, I just played them at 2 different times. All right, so maybe in part 2 of this melody, we'll do more synth sounds instead of acoustic sounds. So I need you guys to subscribe, like the video, share with a friend. If you want these project files for free, go to busyworksbeats.com. Make sure you look at the top of the website. It says free downloads. All right, guys, it's free to sign up. Peace.